information or the details from an active police investigation. But also, we have to recognise that Donald Trump considers Charlie Kirk not just a close ally of his movement, but also an inspiration to the conservative youth movement. It was Donald Trump himself who announced the passing of Charlie Kirk when he had been fatally shot, assassinated in this murder investigation 2 nights ago. So Donald Trump, you may say that he's releasing information ahead of the relevant authorities, but he clearly has a great personal attachment to this case and to Charlie Kirk himself. So he has announced that a suspect has been arrested. He says, with a high degree of certainty, we have him. He said this during a live interview just moments ago, saying somebody who was very close to him turned him in, we believe referring to the suspect, and saying that this information was relayed through a pastor who works in law enforcement. I hope he's going to be found guilty, and I hope he gets the death penalty. Those are the words of the President of the United States. I think relevant because we've heard references to the death penalty since the night of Charlie Kirk's killing, particularly from Bo Mason and other members of the authorities in Utah, the chief of public safety, they're the public safety commissioner. So the suspect in this case, allegedly believed to have fired that single shot from an elevated position about 130 metres away from the open-air amphitheatre where Kirk was sitting in a tent at the university's Losi Centre. That's the firing position. Obviously being hit in the neck. You would expect that from that distance, the shooter was firing at a centre of mass, and perhaps being a novice marksman or someone who had zeroed in their rifle at a flat range, they did not expect the rise of the round to then hit the neck. But all this information about the suspect that's been released so far, we're seeing pictures on your screens now at the moment just after the shooting when this suspect fled off the roof, jumping down, leaving a forearm imprint, a handprint, and also a footwear imprint. All the information we have is speculation based on expert testimony and deductive assessment on the scene on the ground. But now we're hearing from the President of the United States that the person you're seeing on your screen now could be in police custody, saying with a high degree of certainty, we have him.
And Charlie, it is so important to note that Donald Trump feels so personally connected to this case. As you rightly pointed out, I mean, it was Donald Trump's post on Truth Social that announced the sad passing of Charlie Kirk in the first place. We have been getting information throughout this process from President Trump before we get it from the relevant authorities in the matter, perhaps because he feels so personally connected to this, not just because he was a close personal friend of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk almost a sort of unofficial advisor to the president, a liaison between the White House and the wider movement, but also because Donald Trump himself came so close to death, not once but twice.
Yes, and the president has said that he's subject to be corrected, direct quote here, but that he was sharing information based on what I'm hearing and that he had just heard this information. This has come up just during a live interview in the Manhattan studio on Fox News. He's been asked the question and he didn't offer that information. It had to be asked for him then to deliver it, saying, I think we have, with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody. President Trump then, cautioning this information at this stage. It's very early on, it's preliminary, it's, as he has said, based on what I'm hearing, and that a church minister who's also a member of law enforcement has communicated with the suspect's father and eventually was able to turn the suspect in to the authorities. The FBI have been appealing for public information, receiving thousands of tips, well over 100 on the same few hours after the attack. This is the sort of public information campaign they were hoping to pay off amid enormous pressure on Kash Patel, the director, and the deputy, Dan Bongino. Now, Trump has said that the father of the suspect drove his son to police headquarters. We don't know where that happened. We don't know if that's happened in Utah, because we heard from public safety officials in Utah speaking overnight saying that they had no idea if the suspect was even still in the state. And then moving on in his statements just made moments ago, the president spoke more generally about Charlie Kirk, saying that his son, Don Jr., said to Trump of Charlie Kirk, he's sort of like a son to you. I think that points to the closeness and the personal tributes and also the personal delivering of information that Donald Trump is orchestrating here. President Trump also said that he didn't watch the video of Charlie Kirk being shot. And I think many of our audience can recognise and appreciate that statement themselves. I didn't want to remember Charlie that way. It's horrific, is what I hear, just horrific. And for those of you who haven't seen that footage, certainly agree with that assessment. Truly shocking footage. He didn't deserve this, the president said, referring to the 31-year-old Conservative activist. And he's also spoken about Charlie Kirk's widow just now, Erica Kirk, saying that he spoke to her on Thursday, saying she's devastated. But in between the devastation, they want to keep Turning Point going.
Well, that is an interesting moment to reflect on the wider issue of Charlie Kirk, why he was such a sort of lodestar for the right in the United States.
Can I just bring this? I don't know if you've seen this bit of breaking information. Also, Charlie, Trump has also added that he hoped the suspect, if found guilty, gets the death penalty, and said they are currently being held at police headquarters. Trump said that he wasn't known whether the shooter was part of a bigger network or not. So, interestingly, the death penalty is being mentioned straight away. Obviously, as we said, Trump is emotionally connected to Charlie Kirk. I mean, he was like a son to him.
And it was mentioned by the governor of Utah straight away in the first press conference. One of the first things that any public officials made about this thing. And I want to remind people that we have the death penalty in Utah, as the governor described the killing as a political assassination. Very strong language there from Spencer Cox, who has been the governor since 2021, a Republican, a key Trump ally. Many people very impressed by his statements since the assassination, providing in quite rushed press conference setups, the clearest sort of assessment and sort of also adding a personal element to this breaking news. But what we're hearing now from President Trump is that there is a suspect in custody, and remarkable the account that he is relaying to us. Again, not reaffirmed by the FBI or any of the other 20 state agencies working on this investigation, that the father of the suspect drove his son to police headquarters. They released that information, obviously the FBI, yesterday, including this video footage released overnight, trying to find anyone who recognised the man with the black sunglasses, the black cap, the black backpack, and the American Eagle T-shirt with the American flag on it. They released that information because clearly their visual recognition technology wasn't operating as they'd expected.
It's just an absolutely fascinating development, Charlie. Do stay with us and do stay on top of all of those developments. But you were mentioning, of course, that Charlie Kirk's widow wants this organisation to keep on running. She says that she thinks that Charlie Kirk would have wanted Turning Point USA to be continuing on, almost in his memory. And it is worth noting that he was such an influential figure for many young people on the right, not just in the United States, but around the world too. With us in the studio